What up, everybody? Let's talk about it. This is a REALigion podcast with your host, Counselor REALigion. Whatever you want to call me, I don't know. We're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to figure some stuff out, and who knows? We'll get into it right now on the REALigion podcast.
Hey, what's going on, people out there in podcast land, YouTube land, whatever land you're in? Welcome back to the REALigion podcast. I'm your host and commentator, Anton Payne, aka Revton. As you heard in the intro, I just wanted to thank you all for listening in. We've had quite a bit of influx of people starting to catch up with us and to listen in, and some even going out and subscribing. A lot going subscribing. Others going and giving me some comments and giving me some information. What you want to hear, brothers and sisters. Tell me what you want to talk about. Okay. It's not confession. I mean, if you want to confess and you want to talk about your confession on our podcast, we'll do it, because that's what we do. We do whatever we want to do. That's it. As you might be able to see, we got a little bit of a different setup today. I was in Virginia when I was filming my last 3 podcasts, and now I'm back home in sweet Hagerstown, not Hagerstown, Hagerstown, Indiana, our sister city in Maryland. We're not the same, okay? They're much bigger than we are, but we're a small little quaint town of 2,000 happy people, as the sign would say. And we're a small community. Got some great people in this community, but I'm home, man. This is cribs for the podcast. I'm in my own living room, my own kitchen living room. We have not been to my place. We took an old turn of the century, 1800 to 1900 building that was built for a pharmacy. And when we deconstructed this place, we found 4 German guys' names and one of the chutes of that looked like probably was a staircase chute at one point, and it had 4 German guys' names in it, and it said February 18th, 1896. And so we knew that part at least was done during that time, or maybe someone just, wrote on that wood in 1896. But it makes more sense that they were building this place at that time. Anyways, I bought this place, I don't know, 6 years ago or something, and we made the upstairs of this awesome building our loft apartment, and it's a BA, dude. All right, if you're gonna live in a community, and it's a small little Indiana town, but we knew we were gonna move back to this community after my dad had passed away. We want to be around here for my mother, but we wanted to live in a place that we like, right? We're not the typical picket fence people. We like different things, so we created this place. So I'm home, people. I'm home. You might actually see this more, because I'll be here for a little bit, hopefully. But I also travel a lot, so who knows where you might see me. But just remember, we thank you for being a part of the podcast and being a part of what we do. But don't forget to go like, rate, and comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This will definitely help our plans for taking over the world. So if you want to be a part of us taking over the world, you've got to do those things. You have to go and you have to like, rate, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We will be on all platforms, podcast, vidcast platforms, all the major ones here very, very soon. But right now, we're just on YouTube, and we'll remain on YouTube as we go forward as well. We also have some very cool, exciting stuff coming very, very soon. We have our very own website. yeah, boy. We got our very own website where we can host all the shenanigans in our own place. Okay, so that's really cool. Got that coming, and it's actually being developed now. Hopefully, mid-October, we'll be launching that bad boy. It'll have our podcast, vidcasts on there, our blogs, other cool stuff, and some things like our merch, dudes and dudettes, and whatever else you identify as. We got merch coming. Why? Because if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it big, because that's who I am. It's who I was created to be. And speaking of merch, we've been playing around with some different, I got some sick designs, but we've been playing on different like materials and sweatshirts and t-shirts and things like that. And I've got one that I want to show you guys. Now this is just a prototype. It's just one that we're going to test it out and checking out. But it is really, really cool. Oh, if you hear like a little weird, like I think there's some squeaking and some stuff. If you hear that stuff, it's because we haven't really worked out this studio space yet. But just bear with me. This merch is going to be ridiculous. Okay. If you like cool stuff, you're going to really love our stuff. All right, I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to come with the mic real quick. I'm going to show you what we've been working on. Again, this is just prototypes, and I'll be rocking protos. Hey, I'm rocking a proto, dude, because that's how freaking baller I am. I rock protos. Those are before they come out to the normal and general public. You get a prototype, and I'm going to be rocking a proto. Not a Frodo, not that guy. A proto, dude. All right, so here's my proto. Check it. This is so baller. I'll even move my drink out of the way so I don't spill my drink. But anyways, on the front of this particular, again, this is proto. On the front of this particular piece, it has this on it. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. And on the back of this baller shirt, sweatshirt, crew neck. Drum roll, please. Boom, baby. Boom. It is the Jim Jones Kool-Aid stand. Those that don't know who Jim Jones is, look it up. But I'll get into that in just a minute. But don't drink it, it says. And then our Jim Jones. You got it. And then at the bottom, REALigion. You need one. You need it. This is not a want. This is a need. So if you got to pick between paying your light bill and buying this sweatshirt. That's great advice, sound advice. And so just remember that, okay? So there's that one. And then we also have another one. Hold on. I think I dropped it. Hold on. Let me grab it. Same design, just different color. Don't drink it. Kool-Aid stand. REALigion. Boom, baby. Anyways, awesome stuff. Just wanted to put that out there. We'll be dropping those soon, sons of preachers, daughters of preachers. Going to be awesome. So make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm going to use that platform to announce whenever I'm going forward with another platform or going forward with merch or launching a website live. And you need to be a part of that. You know why? Because if you're a part of that, you get all the up-to-date information. Also follow us on Instagram. Just right now it's Anton Payne, and also on Facebook if you're 155 years old like I am. And you can follow me also on Snapchat, because I'm also cool and fresh and clean like the kids. All of it at Anton Payne, ANTONPAYNE. Okay. Anyways, you need to stay up to date, because what's going to happen is when I launch all those things, we're going to, when people come over to the website and be a part of that, we will give some things away, some cool shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, things like that, because we want you guys rocking our gear. And so if you're one of the first ones to be a part of it, you get to rock the gear first, and you might even get it free. So awesome. Anyways, so that is that. And then now I'm going to take just a short period of time to thank our sponsors. Oh wait, we don't have any sponsors. We don't have any sponsors yet, but they're coming real fast and real soon. With that being said, if you're a person and you're like, hey, I have a company and I'd like to be one of the sponsors for the Religion podcast, get a hold of me. I can make that happen. Also, if you're just a person, you're like, listen, I'm just, Joe Schmo, and I would love to sponsor one of the episodes. Get a hold of me, because then I'll say, hey, thank you to Joe Schmo for this podcast being available to you all. He has came out, she has came out, and they have sponsored, and they have made this possible. Check out Joe Schmo, because Joe Schmo is one amazing person. Something like that, right? You get the major shout outs. But please hit me up if you want to be a part of what we are doing here as a sponsor. Okay, this thing's growing rapidly, and we want you to be a part of it from the ground up. All right, with that being said, we're going to get into episode 503. 503, guys. Rated G coming at you. This song is by Gunship, and it is an incredible song, but it puts me in the mood to stop moving, dude. So right now, we're going to get into episode 503, Rated G, up in here. So I definitely wanted to bring this to you live. Well, not live, but I want to bring it to you as quickly as possible. But anyways, so we're going to start off and we're going to talk about, before we get into actual Rated G and 503, we need to address some stuff. There's an elephant in the room, okay? Elephant in the room. And that elephant is, there was a little, and I mean little kickback from the episode 502 where I was talking about a little bit of drama. I was talking about the female anatomy in a baby nursing, and I made a little, I think the biggest issue people had was a little clip I actually made talking about and using a very junior high prepubescent word to describe a female part, and I was using that because I wanted it to obviously be seen as a joke, and I wanted people to be like, oh, this is obviously a joke, because nobody in the right mind, talks about the female anatomy in a good way or bad way using the word that I used. It was booby. But I had a whisper. But I want to address that. First off, in this, there was the people, like I said, most of them were affected by the clip, and the ones that were negatively impacted or upset about it did not, for the most part, listen to the entire podcast, which is totally fine. If you don't want to listen to the entire podcast and you don't want to be a part of what we're doing up in here, then that's okay, because that's your decision. But the ones that actually listen to the entire podcast were not offended by from what I'm gathering, we're not offended by the content, but rather just the words and the antics and the play of words that I was using. And to those people, and I'm close to some of those people. And to those people, I want to say that I never, ever intentionally want to hurt you, right? And I don't ever want to make you feel like I'm not sensitive to what you're feeling or thinking. And like we've talked about with a few of you, the content of the podcast was very relevant, real, and truthful. Okay, and you and I just differ in rather how the approach to bring that message was how I used it and what I did to bring that message. That we can kind of just agree to disagree and move on, and know that I love you and you're amazing and you're awesome, and you do you and I'll do me, and we'll just continue rocking, right? That's that group. There's another small group inside of that small group, inside of the small groups that were not really into what I said, and they didn't listen to the podcast. All they listened to was the clip, and that group were offended. Now the other group, they didn't ever say they were offended. They were hurt by it or did not like it or appreciate it. And like I said, we can deal with that. The other group that was offended, that didn't listen to it, let me explain something to you. You're going to be offended in life by everything if you don't take the time and effort to actually understand what's going on. right? You might be offended that you had to wake up and go to work this morning. You might be offended that the sun came out this morning because you wanted to sleep longer. You might be offended because the food in your refrigerator is not what you want. You'd be offended because someone walked in front of you at a Starbucks. You might be offended. But let me explain something to you. You're what's wrong with the world. Okay? You're what's wrong with the world. Because offense without truth has no power and no relevancy to the world. You're useless in that offense. And understand, when you're offended, that is on you. And you have to own that, because everyone around you can have their life and do what they want to do, and how you react to it. If you walk in offense, basically you're walking you have zero power to your anger. Now, what usually offense does, it tries to shut down other people's power, tries to bring them down. But here's what I've always believed and what I live by, is someone is trying to bring you down, understand that they're below you to begin with. Nobody can pull you down that's above you. That would be called pulling you up, lifting you up. Only people that are below you can pull you down. Okay, so for those people, like I said, you're what's wrong with the world, because you judged a book by its cover and you didn't listen to really read the cover. You just listened. You looked at what you wanted to see on the cover. You looked at what you wanted to hear on the cover, and you judged based upon a word that you didn't agree with. But the context, ironically enough, the context was I was defending women in the podcast. But even beyond that, I do want to say this to you. I still love you. You're still awesome. You're still incredible, and I think you can do amazing things. And I think maybe this podcast isn't for you. And that is perfectly fine. Okay? And you can still have your opinion about me, and you can still say this or say that, or question this or question that. But just know I don't care. Okay? I had the question come up, and people were saying, one person, I actually value their opinion because they actually bring things to me when they're in disagreements, whatever. The question she asked me, she goes, hey, do you truly not care what people think of you? And I answered it like this, and I'll tell you this. No, I do not care what people think about me. But yes, I do deeply care about people. Okay, because usually what they think about me is just an opinion of what they want me to be or how I affect their life, quote unquote, affect their life. Right? But people in general, I actually do care about. I care about if people are feeling loved. I care about if people are struggling. I care about these things, or I would not be doing these podcasts. I would not be a minister. I would not be a coach. I would not have a cafe that gives back to the community. I would not do those things. I actually truly care about people, but I don't care what they think about me. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now the last group of these podcasts and this is to all the rest, which is the majority, the bulk. You guys love what we're doing. You get it. You're excited about it. To those people, I say, let's rock. Let's just keep blowing it out of the water. Let's actually multiply. Let's go out and tell other people to listen. Let's go out and get others to be involved, because that's how we're going to take over the world. We can't do it with just the few hundred that we got listening right now. We need them all. Okay, so let's go. Let's share the love to all of our friends and family. And I thank you guys so much for being a part of what we're doing. I'm excited. You last group, you're my favorite group, because you love. Even when you don't understand and you don't agree, you just continue to love. And I want you guys to be blessed as well. And I want you to continue to do this with me and be a part of it. So let's put that to rest and let's move on. Enough said. Okay? I'm going to get into this next little subject, because this leads us right into the next subject we're going to chat about today, is that we live in a weird world. Things have changed a ton since I was a kid, and we're in a very fast-paced world where things are changing and growing, and there's so much coming at us, and some of it's really, really good, and it's advancing as humans, and as a culture and a world. We're advancing at rates that's just it's crazy, and then there's other parts that I don't know that is actually that good, but I will tell you this: I think that we live in the most powerful time in history for humans. I really do. I believe that if you're alive right now, you are living in the most powerful time in the history of human beings. This is really, really cool. And we can take a look at the digital world, okay? That's kind of what we're talking about here. The world we live in is a digital world. Matter of fact, I'm looking at a computer and I'm recording and all this digital stuff, and I got this really cool camera set up. And we live in a digital world, and I can put this out on social media, my own platforms, and I have an audience like that. Whereas before, this was impossible. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is incredibly awesome. But because right now we are connected more to people in more people around the world in our own lives than we've ever been before, right? We're connected through social media, our phones, and things of that nature. We're connected. But here's my argument, is that we actually aren't personally connected like we used to be. And this is an extremely, extremely powerful and volatile thing. Because if we lose connection to people, I believe that human society and human life as we know it actually it changes to the point where I believe we don't exist no more. We're gone. We're going to unplug from human connection and plug into just the digital world. We won't be able to survive. And so the Bible actually it talks about this. The whole idea of, especially the New Testament and things, the whole idea was connection, was bringing people together over a common good and a common thing and connecting them. And actually, if you read in Acts, it says that the new church, right, the new church that came established after Jesus Christ, right, was that they were connected. It says they were all in community together. They were all in one place. And each of them took and gave to one another so much that none of them had a need. That none of them actually had a need. It said there was no need among them. The connection was so great that it overpowered all needs. That's, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But we are running this risk, and actually, I believe, entering into a time where that connection is falling apart. And the Great Commission, even when Jesus sent his disciples and told them what to do, he could have said, what I want you to do is I want you guys to build a mega church. And I want people to come from around all the world and come to this one place so they can connect with you. But he didn't say that. You see, and that's if I could just get the big old church and I could just have all of the good stuff inside that church, the nice, beautiful steeple, because we still need steeples, because steeples used to be where people could see where the church building was when we were traveling without GPS and we were walking and we could look up in the sky and we'd see a steeple. That's what the steeple was for. But we still need a steeple because we all use that thing. Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Open up a door and here's the people. That's what we need. We need the church building. Because God called us to the church building, and we know it. That's what we know. No, that's not what it is, right? God did not say that. Jesus actually said in the Great Commission, go. Go into all the world and proclaim the good news. Bring them the good news. Take it to the people that need the good news. Take it to the people in the streets. Take it to the people in the hospitals. Take it to the people in bad parts of town and good parts of town. Take it to the people so that they could hear the good news. Ironically enough, if you could hear in the background the beautiful bells of the church. Now, I do love those bells. They do sound pretty, but church is bigger than that. And so the Great Commission was to spread his good news into love, right? And the vessel that he chose to give us, he could have said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a little something on your finger. And so every time that you touch someone, they'll know that you're a Christian. They'll know you're my follower. As soon as you touch them, it'll be like an ET finger. This is before ET, so I'm just being a prophet here. It's going to be like an ET finger. So whenever you walk into a room, there will be a light that comes out of your finger. And you'll touch people. And that ET finger, you're not going to phone home. You're going to phone their soul. That makes me laugh because it's stupid, right? No, he didn't give us ET fingers. The word says that they will know you because of your love. We've talked about this even in the other podcast. But I got to reiterate it because when you go, you're supposed to go. Right? What if I lined everybody up at a track meet, right? And we had the gun and we're like, all right, everybody get ready. We're going to do a race. We're lane 1 through 7. Get ready on your marks. Get set. Stay. And nobody moved. We're just standing there like, what kind of race would that be? No. We're to go as fast as we possibly can in that direction. Right? That's the same thing we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to go. It means to connect as much as we can with people, right? Not just on Sunday service. I mean, Sunday service is important. Don't get me wrong. Sunday service is important, but it's not the end-all, be-all. It's crazy to think that we think that Sunday service is church. But clearly, the word doesn't say that that's a church. Actually, the word says that we are the church, right? That we are ourselves, we are the embodiment of and we are the carrier of his spirit. Bill Johnson put out a little photo this last week, and I'm not sure if it's his saying or not, but I think it probably is his saying. But he says, you are the carrier of the Holy Spirit. Essentially is what he said. You are the carrier of the Holy Spirit, and he wants out. He wants out. You're not called to just keep it in. You're called to go and to spread this, right? This is the problem with what we have going on today in churches that we tell everybody to come in here. Our Sunday service would be insane though. Imagine this. Imagine if we actually caught the vision of the church and we actually went into the world. We loved on people. We showed them the love of God, right? We radically and allowed them to encounter his presence through us and what we carry, and we shared that with people where nobody had needs. Imagine what our Sunday services would look like. There would be, that's why it says in the Bible that there was thousands added to them daily, right? So, I mean, that's what would happen. It would be infectious and contagious that everybody would want to be a part of. You would change cities. You would change nations. You would change the world because of this, because it would be infectious and effective. See, I can mess up. I don't care. Right? I can mess up whenever I want to mess up. But this is how church is supposed to be. But rather, we try to fill places based upon our program. We try to fill up churches based upon our brand of church in our beautiful building and our whatever. That's friggin' bullcrap. I could have said something else, but I'm trying to keep it rated G this time. Not really. I'll do whatever I want, but I'm just saying. Okay? So this is what we're trying to do, and this is where we're missing the point. See, our churches and our society is currently built on something, right, guys? It's actually built on consumption, and it relies on consumers. Our church model right now is built on consumption. What can it give me? What can I consume? What can I consume, right? And it relies on consumers. We at the church is in a whole, not just my church, but I'm saying the church as whole. We want it like, what is it, Burger King's? Have it your way. That's how we do it. We try to make everything very, very, very palatable for people because we want consumers. We want people in the pews because those people's in the pews means that we're going to be popular. And since we're popular, that means we're going to get more people giving money. And that means we can do more stuff. We can hire more people and we can do all the. Again, I don't have a problem with the money. I have a problem with the fact that you're drawing consumers instead of worshipers. You're asking for consumers instead of people that are going into the world. right? You're calling consumers instead of people being in the presence of God, right? This is the major part that we're messing up in church right now. Okay, and we got to get out of that mindset, because the problem with consumption, when we consuming negates connection. Because what it does, it creates this culture of actually a comparative identity is what I deemed it as, a comparative identity. When we are consumers, we go into this comparative mindset. We look around. What does this person have? What does that place have? What do they have that I don't have? Why? And it makes us feel that we aren't who we're supposed to be. It makes us feel inadequate, right? It makes us feel like we're less because we have a consumer mindset. But the problem with that is that we have to change that, because God says we're all created in His image. We're all the same. Now, the difference, and it also creates this idea of the haves and the have-nots, the us and the thems. But there is no us and them in God's eyes. There is just His body, His people, His children, right? The people that He loves. And so what we do, and we get caught up in that consumer mindset as Christians, we also start trying to brand ourselves around certain things. And so that means that we have to isolate groups that we identify with or we don't identify with. And that is demonic. That is not godly. God said, He didn't send you as a judge. He's got that job taken care of. He sent you as the representation, the advocate for love. You are called to love people. Plain and simple. That is it. That is your job. It's just to love people. Okay? So if we go into that consumption mindset, what happens is when we start picking our groups, we have to narrow our box that our God can live in. And God's not going to live in a box. Right? And so this is a really, really big deal, because, I was raised in a time where things were a bit different, like we're talking about right now. And I remember having things, my friends having things, and I'm not having. I didn't have much. My parents raised me with best they possibly can, and we gave me as much as they possibly could. But I do remember being where we didn't have a lot of money, but I was very thankful for every little thing during those times that I had. I was thankful for the experiences that I had. I was thankful for the connection I had with my parents and my friends, and the best days of my life was spent in the woods, hanging out with my friends and just being silly. It wasn't about the stuff we had, right? And then I remember when I would get something, it meant that much more to me, because it was an honor and a blessing to receive something. But we don't live like that anymore, right? We go. I remember, this is a funny story. I remember when we would go and we would take like little trips into town, or we go into the store or whatever. We would go it wasn't something that we wanted to do a lot of times, my brother and I, and because we would get the talk. The talk for parents back whenever I was growing up was this with your kids. It wasn't just the sexual talk. It was this talk. We're going to the store, and you better not ask for a thing. If you do, you're getting a spanking. And I'm not talking about now sometimes it is when you get home you're getting a spanking, but most of the time it was you're getting a spanking. I don't care where we're at. You're getting lit up in the store, whatever. You say you want something, because it was going to bring embarrassment to my mother and whoever else was around, because if I was throwing a fit because I wanted something but they couldn't afford it, it was going to be all heck was going to break loose, and my mom was going to take care of it right then and there, right? And this wasn't just about going to the department store and getting a toy, because we weren't able to do that all the time either. But this is also about, hey, when we go, understand, we're not stopping. We're not getting a drink. We're not stopping. We're not getting food. We're not getting snacks. We're not getting toys. We're not doing none of that, right? Because I didn't have the consumer mindset. It was more just, okay, if you got something, it was a blessing. I remember at one point we were struggling pretty well, and pretty well. I don't know how you say you struggle pretty well, but we're struggling, and just in the sense that we were making our bills, but that was basically it. Well, we had went to town. I mean, that's when you live in a small community, you go to town, right? You live in a town, but when you go to town, that means you're going to the bigger town down the road. Like I said, we're 2,000 happy people here. So when we say, hey, let's go to town, that means we're going to the bigger town with like 20 or 30,000 people. New York style town, 20, 30,000 people. So when we say we're going to town, that's what we meant. So we're going to go into town. And we didn't have any extra money or anything like that. But Long John Silver's, and I don't know if they still do this or not, but when I was growing up, they would, sounds so disgusting, and it is. I mean, literally, I'm surprised my heart's still working. But basically, Long John Silver's deep fries everything. Like literally, if you go there, you can get a deep fried fork, I'm pretty sure. Like and it'd be good too, right? They deep fry everything, but the overflow of the deep fried batter just becomes this little like deep fried crumbs. Well, what you could do, usually for those that were eating, and you still probably could do this. So if you go to Long John Silver's and you want your arteries to be clogged up, you can do this. You can ask for a side of the crumbs. So it's just this deep fried battery stuff. And my brother and I would go in. Sorry, I got some in my eye. It's probably my eyeball. Okay. But my brother and I, we would go in and we would ask for a side of crumbs. He'd get a side of crumbs and I'd get a side of crumbs. And so we would get these crumbs and we would get a water. So we thought that was freaking baller, dude. Like we had, like for us, we were going hard into paint at that time. That was we were gaming hard if we got a side of crumbs each and a water. And we would eat these crumbs, and you would have thought you bought us a steak dinner. My mom wouldn't go in and get the side of crumbs for us, but she would let us go in and do it, right? So we'd go and get our side of crumbs, come back out, and we were friggin' pumped. I mean, so pumped, right? And that was it. But I didn't understand. We didn't have that consumer mindset. But now you go and you go, okay, we're going to go to town. You get your kid usually in a vehicle, and that vehicle probably has an iPad sitting in it, or they're carrying an iPad with them, and then there's probably a TV in there hanging on, in the car itself. You drive over, and you probably pick up them drink at the gas station and some snacks, so they have something to eat and drink while they're watching their show and playing their video game. And then you get over to wherever you're going, to the town that you're going to, and you go in and you get them a little something to play around with in the cart, and you go ahead and buy that for them to keep them happy. And then afterwards, you guys have worked up such an appetite that you go out to eat. And then when you get out to eat, you sit down, and I'm telling you, you need to look around when you're eating. Look around and see what's going on. I take my wife out to eat the other night, and we're just sitting there and we're talking and having a conversation. I look around. Every booth is full of people like this, just going through it. There's husband, wife, kid got their iPad, and they're going through it. There's not words being spoken. There's not, and then I see them, and you can almost in a guilt the way they'll put their phone down and, oh, look, we were supposed to have a conversation. And then they'll say like 2 words, because they don't know what to say to each other. Like, yeah, yeah. Now, I'll admit, I'm not the biggest talker in the world when it comes to like those type of conversations, but I like to have the conversations. My wife could literally, she will, if it gets silent for 5 seconds, she's looking at her phone to call someone to talk to. Now, she's the talker, but, God put this together so she could, talk, and I can not talk. But still, that's better than just looking through it. And I've heard it said with psychologists and all that stuff, and just today's world. Check this out. I'm going to ask you a question. I didn't ask this question originally by myself. This has been asked by many scientists and podcast people and stuff like that. Well, what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Most everybody grabs this. Now, you're right. You got to turn your alarm off. But how many of you don't just turn your alarm off? You scroll through real fast to see what happened, what notifications you have through the night. Now, again, I'm not coming down. I'm not trying to be the old guy that says that's bad. But what that's doing is disconnecting us from what we should be doing, right? The first thing in your morning you should probably be doing is getting your mind right for what you're about to do that day. It's to reconnect with your spouse or your children or your friends in a physical way, like, waking them up and actually saying hi, good morning. Maybe getting out of bed and not doing this and making breakfast. I remember waking up in the morning sometimes and smelling my dad making biscuits and gravy or eggs or something, and there wasn't a phone to keep him from doing that. And he connect, even if he didn't say the words with me, right? And I've said this before, I think in the podcast as well, but the St. Francis of Assisi said this: go into all the world and proclaim the gospel, and if necessary, use words. See, sometimes your go is your connection, just your presence, being there, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. We've got to get back to that connection, because we lose that, we lose everything. You see, even the way like our eating has changed. I mean, I got a little cafe and stuff like that, but the design of restaurants and cafes and all those and fast food places, they've changed because they're now more digital. It's not. I saw a meme the other day, and it friggin' cracked me up, and it brought me to my next point. But it showed a McDonald's, and it looked like a McDonald's from whenever I was a kid, and it looks like now is a McDonald's of now. And it said it looks like McDonald's. I can't remember the exact meme, but it says it looks like a McDonald's grew up and realized that it was an adult and miserable and depressed. That's what the new McDonald's looks like. It's all these modern lines, and there's no personality. It's just bland. It's just whatever. It's just a weird looking box. And you go inside, and really, wow, you go inside, and you usually a lot of times met with big screens. No person. You walk up, you order your stuff, and yeah, you're right. The machine. I mean, if you want to, non-emotional connection to your food and whatever, that's fine, it works, right? But then you get your food, comes up or whatever, and you take it, sit down, and then people pop right onto their stuff, and there's no interaction. When I was a kid, McDonald's was like the Disneyland for country folk, for us, aka rednecks. It was Disneyland. I mean, you would go, and you look on the outside, it looked like this wild, crazy looking like clown house, because Ronald McDonald's a clown. That's the point behind the branding. Now you would think Ronald McDonald is a friggin' lawyer. That's when if you looked at the Ronald McDonald friggin' clown house that we call McDonald's, it's a law firm now. But back when I was a kid, it was a clown house. And you go in and you were met by all the images of Ronald McDonald and all of his friends. There was a clown, there was Grimace, this purple blob that was out of shape, moved around, and you had the Hamburglar, which you can't even say that someone would steal a hamburger now. You go to friggin' jail for it. Whatever, the moral police would come and get you. But you had Hamburglar, you had all this weird stuff. You'd sit on these things that look like creatures that made up French fries, and you'd spring around on stuff. And inside, even before the outside tunnels, right? That now they're taking away all the playground stuff because it's too much of a risk, right? And kids aren't even entertained by that no more. They're only entertained by their tablets or whatever may be the case. But inside of it, there was this McDonald land. And there was all this little cool stuff, interactive stuff that you could do. And on the wall, there was this tree. And this tree had a smile on it, right? And he would sit there looking at you in this big plastic tree. And you would walk up and you push a button on his nose. And he would talk to you. And he would say these random things. And just, well, welcome to McDonald's. We're so glad you're here. I don't know if that's his voice or not, but that's the voice I'm doing for him. We're so glad you're here. You're such a great young whatever. Right? It was awesome. It was this really, really cool, time of just interacting. You had other little kids around there pushing the nose too and playing on all this stuff, and all this stuff was going on around you. And it was awesome. But we don't have time for that no more, because we don't have time for connection. We want our food as fast as we possibly can get it. We don't want to talk to someone. We don't want to interact at the table. All we want to do is eat our food, leave, shove it into our stupid fat faces, and get out of there. And we want our kids to do the exact same thing, because we don't want to be inconvenienced, right? My parents would play with me in those areas. They'd watch me play, and they got joy out of it because there was not a distraction that they could go and do something else. So if they weren't watching me play or playing with me, guess what they were doing? They were interacting with other adults. That interaction has to come back. It has to. Because we can't just connect. We live in the most connected, unconnected world that there ever has been. And we have to change some of that. We got to get back to the old Grimace style, right? The Hamburglar style. We got to really connect to this thing. Now again, my thing is I love some of this new stuff. And we have the ability to actually effectively connect to people in a real personal way at a much greater level. But it's going to take us being very responsible, right? And it's going to take us moving outside of the parameters that we believe in our mind things are supposed to be. And especially it's going to take the church stop doing what they're doing. Stop with the consumer mindset. Stop with the consumption idea of church. We've got to get to the realness, man. We got to get to this thing, and we got to start connecting with people and showing them that they have to connect to God and be in His presence before this thing's going to be real. Just showing up and listening to a cool song and a fun little sermon is not going to change you. It will not change you. Only connection to the true understanding of who God is in His presence in other people, and through love will anyone ever change. How can you go into all the world and proclaim the truth and love of God without connection? That's what I'm asking you. How can you carry out the Great Commission and not be truly connected to people? You can't. I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, and I heard this, and it really struck a chord with me about what we're talking about here. But he said, imagine this. Imagine if I was standing in front of all of you guys and all you adults and teenagers, and I said, hey, I want, and now I know this is a hypothetical because you're not in front of me right now, but you got to be real with yourself. And there's hundreds of people there, maybe thousands of people there. And I said, hey, which one of you guys will come up and draw me a picture? I want you to draw me a picture in front of everybody here. Very few that aren't artists, and very few in general, would say, yeah, I'll do that. But if you ask that same question to a group of first graders, every hand in the room would go up. Every hand in the room would go up. And the reason why is because there's a connection at that level. And the people that was talking about this in another podcast, we talk about creativity, which we can talk about another time. But I believe also outside of creativity, there's a connection in first grade and kindergarten that we lose. There's an innocence that we lose through being disconnected. We actually start going into that consumer mindset. We start judging ourselves based upon other people's abilities. So now when I ask the question, who wants to draw me a picture, the first thing you think about is your ability to draw. Instead of just saying, yeah, I'll draw. He didn't ask to see if I could, paint the next Mona Lisa. He just said, I draw you a picture? We start consuming the ideas of people around us and all the things, and it limits us to who we can actually be. I say, screw that. Become the best version of you, and the only way you're going to do that is by exploring everything, by pushing yourself out there past the limits that you feel comfortable, by saying yes when you're inside you think, no, I can't. You have to push past that. You have to connect past that. And the way you do that is by connecting to other people, getting more and more out of each other, by becoming one body, right? We're better that way. And that's the way we have to do it, right? And see, here is my advice. I said a little bit earlier. You need to go hard in the paint on this. You need to double down in this area. Going hard in the paint, but this is a basketball tournament. It means that when you get the ball, that you have an intention, right? It's not a lot of guys you see get the basketball in the paint, and it's an area right by the basketball goal. You look at a lot of people, especially like high school basketball, they get the ball in the paint, and they're looking for a couple things. They're looking to pass the ball back out, or they're looking to get fouled. Okay, and that's the type of culture we live in right now. We look at when we get something, we want to divert it to someone else. I get something, I want to divert it to someone else. Right? And we don't want the one with the responsibility of what's in front of us. We want to divert it. We want to divert blame. We want to divert fame. We want to divert everything. We want no risk involved. So we just want to divert. The other thing that we do in this culture is we look to be offended. We look to be hit, right? We look to take the hit. And instead of looking to take it to the goal and scoring, we look to be fouled in the terms of basketball. And when you get that, what you get in that realm of things is you get what the world calls, or the game calls, basketball calls, a flop. And it's the most miserable thing in the world to watch is someone flop. They're anticipating a foul, and they're trying to draw the attention of the people around them by flopping. We have so many friggin' floppers in this world right now. We have people falling all over the place, blaming everybody else, diverting everything, and trying to flop in front of as many people as they possibly can so that the people with the whistleblowers, can say, they touched them. You can't do that. You can't touch. But instead, what we need to be doing as a church, and I'm going to put on my pump-up music for this. What we need to be doing as a church, and what we got to be doing as a group of people that want to make change, we need to be going hard in the paint. When you get an opportunity freaking go for it. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Don't worry about what's going on around you. Don't think about any of that stuff. Go freaking hard in the paint. Because there's only one you. And when you push yourself outside of this comfort zone, you're going to change the world. But you got to be willing to do it. Don't look to be fouled. Don't look to dish it out. You got to go hard in the paint. I'm going to turn that off before we get kicked off of YouTube. You got to be willing to go hard in the paint. You have to. You've got to. You can't be, there's too many people that are going to judge me. So I'm just going to stay safe. Because God wants me safe. And God, I just ask you to put a hedge of protection around me and all my feelings. I just ask that you make my world as comfortable as possible without ruffling any feathers. Frick that. Boop, boop. Screw it. No. Nope. Definitely not. Go hard in the paint. Go for it. This is your opportunity to connect to people, to make change, and to do something that my buddy said this same before, and I started living by it myself. Do today what others won't, so you can have tomorrow what others can't. And I'm not talking about physical things like having things. I'm talking about doing the stuff that nobody else will do, so you can be who others can't be. That's what I'm talking about. The popular church does not care about connection as much as they care about connecting their brand to you by making you a brand ambassador. So you can go out and tell them how cool your church is and how cool this is and how cool that is. Forget it. That is not church. That is a cult. You are not to be a consumer in church. You're supposed to be a worshiper with the direction being on our Father, right? But this idea how church is going now, it disconnects us from God. It disconnects us from one another. And it will ruin you. You will never be happy with that. You'll never be happy being that type of person, that type of churchgoer. You're always going to divert. Well, I can't believe he would say that. I can't believe our church did this. I can't believe that church did that. And then you're going to look for you and foul. Oh, somebody said something to hurt my feelings. I can't. No, that's a foul. Oh, you're going to become a flopping Christian. Nothing but a flopper. And you're not called to be that. You're called to truly go into all the world. I believe it to be literal. Truly go into all the world and proclaim God's good news through his love and connect to his people and watch how that incredibly changes your life and others. This episode is entitled Rated G because you are rated God's. You are God's. You're not other people's. They have no claim on you. You are God's. And you are to go. Go hard in the paint. And if I will close it out like this, I also believe you are called to be a gangster. A gangster. Doing things the way you do them, not the way you've been told to do them. Reconnecting with other people and go out and stop being a consumer and just be thankful. Guys, I love you. You're awesome. Go into all the world and be exactly who God created you to be and who he wants you to be. And watch how it radically changes you. Episode 503. It is entitled Rated G. Peace out, brothers and sisters.